He told me something I did not react. Yes, his squirrel was great. I'm not going to right away. He's like, do the way. I'm like, do the right one. See it, Tara? Look at that.
How did that happen?
How did that happen?
Just ripped right out.
It's fucking happened.
You need him in the table?
I have one.
It looked like it was going to come out sooner or later.
Well, everything is going to come out sooner or later.
This looks like
My chef is going to come out sooner.
it's like it's new.
Yeah.
What's it made now?
Not French.
So you use that just for a short...
Yeah. It's a bridge.
Okay, gotcha.
It just happens on air, man. That sucks.
Oh, no.
I gotta start wearing diapers.
Borrow the one from New Year's Eve. Were you working over there New Year's Eve?
You know what? I was not going to nothing as well. Because I was with my kid. And then my kids, I got him, he's like, I'm going to go to my mom.
She wanted to be with her mother. He's innocent. They wanted me and I turned them down. I don't do it too much.
You need to stop one. And seriously, this thing right here, that's all you need in New York.
Yeah, but if they go live, I got to go live at the staircase.
You can go live at the staircase at least. Fox be using this to live?
For this one.
I mean, when I'm on tripod in a secure position,
Yeah, that's what
it's one thing. But, you know,
you're not
walking around, running and gunning, fuck that shit. I love that glass. It's so sharp. You can't imagine.
Make some money with it.
Oh, yeah. But it's like Fox is hiring me for one station, shoot. They're using Super 35 cameras for that. And they want to have
the right lens.
Right lenses.
So they know what you got. That's what you do.
So long. Weighs like 2 pounds. Normally normally see lenses, they're really heavy and big. This one is like 2 pounds. That's it.
How's your son doing?
No, it's not. It's just
Connections.
that's the walls. I'm trying to get them because, you know, I'm trying to get them somewhere.
Not just me, other people también.
Oh, look at that camouflage.
It's everybody's talk. I'm glad I got it.
You can shoot views right now.
Now I can. I'm good. I'm good for that. I just thought it was fun. Some of the high. So I'm learning this. I'm learning how to use this tool.
It's got different functions.
Yes, it was awesome. Yeah. I mean, the bull riding thing was.
Are you covered? You guys cover that stuff?
The moving back and forth.
It's not yet. Except for it's fucking dark, which is why it's just crank them up to 200,000 around.
Shot the
32. It's even lower right there. It's dark.
right on the money. This one is giving me problems.
So you don't get grainy.
It's much better at the higher ISOs. Just because, not because it's mirrorless, just because it's a proper newer sensor thing, don't you think?
I think if it's a newer sensor, I think that it's all going to be designed.
I think it's just, they're getting better technology.
The technology is amazing. I'm shooting 6400 ISO, zero gray. Zero.
So the lenses too now.
Yeah, lenses are fast.
This lens
bail
hasn't
bonds
changed.
in
Huh?
guy walking in there with
Yeah.
this longer jacket.
Yeah.
That guy right there. He's the bail bond.
Is that true?
When Harvey came in there to charge him.
He doesn't have to
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Jail. Probably.
No,
I don't know. I think they're going to sell. He's going to do this at like.
I was suspecting that was my prediction to this one. Because
It's not a civil case. I mean, it's not a little prosecution.
well, he already settled snow outside. He settled some.
he already settled something with some of the.
Yeah, but with the
How many times
prosecution.
can he settle? He's not, can he settle with every single accuser? I doubt it. There's going to be
Prosecution will have
something.
to have its own case.
Prosecution is, you cannot settle with the prosecution.
Right.
Plea, but you still gonna get it.
That's his problem. It's the fool around with the Constitution. It's the Constitution. It's the prosecution. You would have been better off.
Oh yeah, totally.
It's true. It's true. That's how we get
The prosecution is, we don't pay the party, we pay them to lose.
It's a good point too. When you're done, right? You don't have to worry
You're
about
either Israeli or Russian.
I could be, whatever. As long as the check clears.
Michael, hey. There's still someone on the other side talking. Can we just go real quick?
What had basically happened and manipulated me into giving her a little bit of chocolate. Chocolate she got some? No, she got bugs. Don't blame her stomach about chocolate. No, I'm not bad. Dude, sprinkles does not make you get sick. She just gets sick. Kids get sick. And then they get too sick. They're all sick. It's a petri dish. It is. There's no blame to be assigned. So my wife was, the next day my wife, Christmas Day. Yeah.
They got us from flowers.
For 3 weeks, blah, blah, blah. Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Looks the exact same as the last time. That's really funny. You see him smile?
Yes.
Or walking by him with a smile?
I saw him smiling. Yes. He was having a good time. I don't know what he was doing.
Time's up.
That's right. Whip her into shape. How old is she? 3.5. It's not really her birthday. It's her hat. Alright, yeah, I mean, you know, she's 3.
Yeah, but she,
Go easy.
no,
That's great. But now she's there are people in the school that are busy. Not learning enough.
Sorry, buddy. Oh, sorry.
As long as they're having a good time, they're social.
You know, this.
Can I work over here between you?
What's out here for?
Jon Snow.
What happened with him?
Incest. I told him Jon Snow is being tried for incest.
You know what I'm talking about? That's slice.
You're killing me. You are
serious.
funny.
I know, I see that. What's up with that?
I've lost. Well, yes and no. I've lost weight. I'm on a new thing. Higher nutrient, less food, higher nutrients, better nutrients.
He refuses to sleep.
I will do whatever you ask me.
Wow, no one loves me like that. I will do whatever you ask. And that's Caribbean, probably the most valuable part of your equipment, right?
No, it's just a bad habit.
This is so
It's a bad habit.
so cool.
Fucking $1.50.
How's doing?
Really.
Hey, it's worth it because like every time you see movie here, you can't put your Done? Yeah, she did.
I'll go eventually. I know. I can take my phone, right?
Yeah, it's
No.
I got so bored
I stopped
today
carrying something.
that I started
Flying regularly. I keep losing them. They just take them.
of people posting Matt Abbott's photo without paying. Millions of people liked his photo, and she didn't put it. Oh, there she is. Okay, she did it. I did it. I made a change. She didn't credit Matt Abbott. Yeah. So I commented, and she deleted the comment, because I also sent in a message. I think that I made a change. I did it! She deleted my comment. Oh my god!
dare you?
She got called that.
How dare you?
Is he a US person?
He's gonna be like, this fucking shit. Why is she doing it?
No, it was if you would have been either of our competitors who had already gotten in a fight, so as you
I didn't even like. I didn't see a flyer. I didn't see a flyer for that. Like it was literally magically here.
it was a clusterfuck. It was just right after. And then someone else said, no, it was the happy. No, but I was sure because I shouldn't have done that shot. Like we were supposed to have a camera do that shot. Yeah. So like they did. They were like, oh, it's a 10. We'll just really make time for it. So like I was like mad.
Oh, and then they didn't too.
It was weird though. Like I was walking by, like I saw the space, and all of a sudden, like I go like this, and like a wire comes out. I was like, where the fuck did this come from? I'm like, what? And then you were like, I was like, so I was like, oh, it literally came out of the wire came out of nowhere. I was just like, I was like trying to go like this to get in, and next thing you know, this wire came out.
Usually with my skillful fighters, it's second fighter. Like they have body control, so they can get by with body control. Then they forget to use the second gear, and that lets wax it.
It was there was a guy. It was like a reporter or whatever, and someone pushed me into the hands. And I was just pushing me. I'm not even breathing. You saw me move.
That was embarrassing. That's true. For our profession. We were set up for failure, but if I told you that there was a Chevy match, I'll give you at least one half.
How was Italy? Good? I was like, fuck those pictures. I'm looking at them like this picture's so nice.
There's a few sick. I will say, I already saw my wife got getting sick.
Congratulations. You said a day?
Yeah, October 3rd.
I know I'm going to get sick, but Friday I was thinking just sick, and I was like, just a heads up, even if I do get sick, I still have to go to work on Monday. So it's like it's damaging. I was like, yeah, I understand.
That was what I liked.
And then we went to Rome for the last portion of the trip. Well, I just wanted to see.
I mean, I was sitting here.
I want to see that deal. I got to walk inside the Coliseum.
Yeah, we did.
I'm not going to go live. Do I need an email about that? Or?
Yeah, this whole after I did special, something else on my phone. I'm going to go.
And when we were, I think it was on our way to her,
We haven't done it yet. It might fail, but
Hercules was covered in lava.
all right, cool. So I need to send an email about that, or just that particular line? You know, what I got inside. Yeah, they're like
Really
Yeah, we had a great.
well, like I said, on the email, which I get my fault for not reading.
So cold. Just so cold.
Would never.
We took that. At one point, like we didn't take the.
It wouldn't even occur to me. I asked Joe at 7:15. He's like,
Yeah, you know the. I'm not part of that thing. You know, it's Ricky. With my luck, you know, so we took the cabs. We took the cab up. And then we took a bus coming down. And that was more scary than the cab. Because there was 100 200 people in the bus and he's going around a thing.
And he's driving like a nut.
Yeah. And I was like, this fucking bus tips over. The thing was, I was by the door. The door, only the door, it just go like this once, and the door opens. I'm like, fuck me. So, like, I'm going overboard. So, yeah.
You guys got a lot of room here, huh?
For now.
But yeah, it was good. It was a great time. But then, like, I mean, Sorrento, though, was really good.
Yeah.
If you're gonna go anywhere, that's cool.
Snowing.
Don't tell anyone.
Yeah, no. I mean, and we rented a house, and it was overlooking so like the seas in the background.
Like Airbnb kind of? Oh.
Yeah, it was gorgeous. Yeah, it was like a villa. Well, it's 36 degrees, so that's why it's snowing.
I mean, I'm glad it's snowing and not raining.
Yeah. Any day. Yeah, I'll take that over.
I'm so proud.
Happy troll.
I trolled like a million different Instagram pages telling them to give credit to the photographer who took this like black photo. And I got Greta Thunberg to change hers to credit him.
How dare you?
I did it!
Looks like the Prime Minister wants to avoid any, like, he doesn't like, isn't he a climate denier? And it's like, he doesn't want to be seen with this fire.
It is cold. It is cold. I will pretend that I'm warm.
Exactly. Are we at war yet?
Always.
Huh?
Always a war.
I think Trump killed him just because the guy trolled Trump. He didn't want to be like,
Adam Schiff is next.
What? You did what?
I don't think I want to be staying on Trump's property. Think about a terrorist attack on his property.
Not gonna happen. They said actually that, you know, who said it? It's not the prime minister. Somebody said that some of the past we have no deal with American people. Then give it Trump.
I think they realize that Americans
Not all Americans.
well, right. But you know, like they know who's who, so to speak.
Too many Americans. Including my own parents.
Yeah.
Yeah,
My sister.
It's weird because like my family, like my family's like it seems like most of us like European countries like Hungary, Russia, Poland, which all love them, and then like
Poland's don't have it.
really,
Yeah, and a lot of people have it. You know, all the generations that came here, you know, they say just
yeah. That's what I mean. It's supposed to be open. And then you got the
Yes, I do.
Okay, where's your snap?
My stop is right here.
This is all you?
This is on me.
Stool too?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, I've got this. Go,
Okay,
take
I'll
your
do-
time.
I'll do it.
Second floor.
Second floor?
Yep.
It's a good thing he did not break on air, but it broke.
What is that?
It's part of the live view. I had to replace them so everything is kosher.
the only Harvey Weinstein.
I don't like
Okay, because my friend is up there. Okay. Thank you.
And apparently, if you could call right, what happened? They also said Arquette.
I know. You can't see it because it's so tall. It's like after it's done, as it goes along, they start showing it.
Vic, morning.
What's that? My job is done. Yeah. We don't have any idea when they're coming out.
Put the shot up? All right.
on to keep power. My camera. Check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Could you turn on my camera? 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Everyone good? All right. C'est bon. Underneath. You got it? All right. Short.
Take a look at the looks like.
I thought it was.
Oh, he's already.
All right, all the girls come out now.
Oh man,
He ain't when you fucking up.
Buena, ponte. Claro, claro.
Let me know when everybody's ready. Microphone's falling.
Everybody ready? Good? Okay. Good morning, everyone. Obviously, today was a procedural day. We are ready to start this jury selection tomorrow. As you heard, again, Ms. Aluzzi is attempting to silence us from speaking to you and speaking to the people of New York and country and the world, frankly. Here we are looking at a circumstance where she stands up in front of a court and calls my client a predator. Mr. Weinstein, again, has a right to a fair trial. I think she believes he's convicted already. That's not how this works. So we are here hoping to pick and find a fair jury, and we believe that that's going to be possible. And we're going to continue to press on and remind everyone that in this great country, you are innocent until proven guilty, and no evidence has yet been presented to a court or a jury or trier of any fact, and that is why we are here to start this trial. I thank everybody for their time. I'm going to let Damon speak about the motion issues today. Well, we talked about a possible sequestration of jury just based on all of the media attention this case is obviously getting, and obviously it is no surprise to any of you. You're writing about it. The fact that there is a potential LA situation going on, and based on the fact that we don't have any information about that, we are anticipating, if this were to happen as the trial unfolds, what that may look like. So we think it's a safer bet if a jury was sequestered than anything that was, that could potentially happen would not have an effect on this trial moving forward.
How do you feel about the decision? This is at this late date.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Is the state still interviewing witnesses?
I have no idea what the state's doing.
How do you feel about being precluded from calling the detective as a witness?
Obviously, I think that that's going to be an argument that we can deal with later on. I think it's really interesting anytime an investigator in a case is precluded from testifying in a trial that they were so much a part of the investigation. So obviously, we'll address that as the trial goes on. There's other ways that we can get into that evidence. As you heard, we can cross-examine witnesses in regard to those questions. So we will be doing that.
Were you being abominable?
I'm sorry?
Were you being abominable?
I'm never abominable. Go ahead.
No, regarding your question, it's not a full preclusion. There may be instances where the detectives could be called, for instance, to prove up impeachment or things along those lines. So it wasn't a total preclusion, but it's going to be determined on sort of as the case goes on, I think is a more accurate description of what the judge ruled on.
What are the 7 photographs that are apparently delicate and sensitive? And
we don't have any comment.
Are you expecting the black cube witness?
I'd rather just let it stand as it was in court. The government's attempting to introduce certain things into evidence. We're objecting. The judge is going to rule. I don't want to get into all of the facts regarding it. I believe the state did say they were going to attempt to call one of Mr. Weinstein's lawyers, possibly. We would object to that for obvious reasons, attorney-client privilege, things like that. But that decision, I think, the court made a ruling regarding some of those decisions which were beneficial for Mr. Weinstein, and regarding how else the state is going to try to introduce it. We're just going to have to wait and see, and we'll object.
Do you expect that your client's going to be indicted in L.A. during this trial?
We don't know what's going to happen. We're hoping not, for sure. I think if that happened, it would be pretty obvious as to why the timing would be very suspect. Mr. Weinstein's certainly looking forward to getting this case out of the way. We have no control over what happens in Los Angeles or anywhere else.
Mr. Turner, why do you think Ms. Aluzzi was trying to call you out?
I think that in the end, the government doesn't want our side to have a voice. I think they believe that their side of this story is the only one that matters and the only one that counts. And that's what this trial's for. This trial is to show the jury, the state of New York, and the world that there's more to this than they would like everyone to believe.
Sorry, in interviews in Chicago, you said you can get away with more in court than a mere attorney.
I've commented on this over and over and over again. It isn't about getting away with anything. It's about the fact that these lawyers standing with me are just as competent and skilled to ask the same questions that I ask. As a woman, the effect on the listener is different. And when a woman has a conversation with a woman and questions a woman, the listener views it in a different way. Thanks, everybody.
What are you trying to focus on for jury selection?
Fair jurors who can be fair and impartial. Have a good day.
Thanks, guys.
Folks, 1 second, all right? They just need 1 minute to bring somebody around.
Keep that gate further back, Juan.
Sorry for the inconvenience, sir.
Hey.
My apologies.
Oh, no. No, thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you for your thoughts. Good?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Doug Wigdor, D-O-U-G-L-A-S, Wigdor, W-I-G-D-O-R. I'm a founding partner of Wigdor LLP, and I have the privilege and honor of representing two women who have civil claims against Harvey Weinstein, Waddell David, whose case is pending around the corner at 500 Pearl Street in the Southern District. I also represent Kaya Sokolow, who was 16 at the time that she was allegedly sexually assaulted by Harvey Weinstein. Her claim under the Child Victims Act is pending over here on Center Street in New York State Supreme Court. I also represent a woman, Jane Doe, who is yet to be identified at this trial. She will be testifying as one of the three Molyneux witnesses. She will be testifying in the course of this trial. Let me just say this. The last time I stood before this courthouse, before a crowd such as you, was at the beginning of the dawn of a different decade. It was 2011. And in 2011, I had the privilege of representing Nafissatou Diallo, the maid who we allege had been sexually assaulted and raped by Dominique Strauss-Kahn. Unfortunately, that case ended with the district attorney dismissing the indictment. But today, we start a new decade, a decade that has come so far in the Me Too movement. And today, we are beginning the process of holding Harvey Weinstein accountable for his actions. And so much has changed since 2011 because of Me Too. We no longer are strapped with the rape myths, and the jurors that will start selecting tomorrow and going through next week are in tune with the common rape myths, that people aren't necessarily raped in dark alleys at gunpoint or knife point, that women often know their perpetrator, that women often speak to the perpetrator after the crime has been committed, that women often don't go to the police or to authorities or tell their loved ones immediately after they've been sexually assaulted or raped. And this case will be a testament and will be a trial not only about Harvey Weinstein, but where we have come as a society. Because the rape myths that the defense keeps talking about people being actresses, about people having contact with Mr. Weinstein after the alleged crimes, those are the things of the last decade, not this decade. And I am very confident that New York jurors will see through those cross-examinations. As I indicated, I represent a Jane Doe. She will be identified by her name later on during this trial. She was raped in 2005 here in New York at Harvey Weinstein's apartment. And there will be more details about her, and I will address you about that. She will not be making any statements or doing any interviews during the course of this trial. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention one other thing, which is, considering that I represent two other women with civil claims, I should note that my client here, who's testifying in the criminal trial, has no civil claim. Her claims are barred by statute of limitations. She's not doing this for the money. She's doing this to hold Harvey Weinstein accountable for his actions and to help the victims in this case and the prosecution in this case. That is her only motivation. And I would be remiss, though, if I did not talk about the purported and alleged settlement that's been in the news over the last few weeks, because that settlement is one of the worst civil settlements that I have ever seen. It is a one-sided civil settlement, and my two clients, Waddell David and Kaya Sokolow, as well as many other women who have contacted me in the last few weeks, will be vigorously objecting to that civil settlement. It's the only civil settlement that I've seen that pays $12 million to the director defendants who we allege were part of the scheme to enable Harvey Weinstein. There are also millions of dollars going to class counsel There are also millions of dollars going to vendors, secured creditors. And to make matters even worse, to the people who want to opt out of the civil settlement, they are trying to bind them by providing releases to the insurance companies and providing releases to the directors. And my biggest surprise, frankly, is that the Attorney General, the former public advocate, is not standing with me shoulder to shoulder in denouncing the civil settlement and making sure that Harvey Weinstein is held accountable not only in this courthouse for his criminal wrongdoing, but in the civil courthouse for the civil wrongs he committed. So I ask her to join me in objecting to the civil settlement on behalf of my clients and the other women who have contacted me. I'll answer a few questions if anyone has any.
You speak about a new era, but Harvey Weinstein was accused by almost 100 women, and here he's in court based on 2 cases. So how can you reconcile that with this new era you talk about?
Well, he's in court here based on 2 victims, but there's also a 3rd victim. I'm sure Ms. Allred will be talking about that victim since that's her client. But there are actually 6 women who are going to be testifying in this case, 3 Molyneux witnesses, 1 witness who's a predicate for the predatory sexual assault case, and then 2 main victims. It is a substantial case. The prosecution, in my view, has a very strong and compelling case. I expect the jurors to understand the case and to debunk the defenses and the cross-examination that I expect to happen. I don't believe will have any traction, and I expect there to be a conviction.
How important are the pattern witnesses? How important are the pattern witnesses?
The witnesses who will be testifying under Molyneux, which is the name of a case, I believe are very strong. Bill Cosby case is a great sort of piece of evidence for that. If you recall, in the first trial in Bill Cosby, ended in a hung jury. There was only 1 equivalent of a Molyneux witness. And then in the second trial, which ended his conviction, there were numerous. So I expect the same thing to happen here. When you have 6 women testifying about a sexual assault and a rape, it is much harder for the defense to cross-examine each one of these women and try and attack their credibility. At some point, the jurors are just going to start to blame the defense and look like they're victim bashing, which is exactly what they're doing.
Doug, in bringing up your prior client, were you suggesting that the district attorney came to this case reluctantly?
Well, what I'm suggesting is that I've been on record that I believe this district attorney's office made a mistake when they dismissed the indictment in the Diallo Dominique Strauss-Kahn case. I believe there was overwhelming physical evidence in that case. And I believe that people's views and how they want to prosecute cases evolve. And so I applaud Sivan and Jonah Luzzi for taking this case to trial and holding Harvey Weinstein accountable, and for looking past some of the things that used to be what we refer to as rape and sexual assault myths, and understanding that, again, people are not always, and usually not, sexually assaulted and raped in dark alleys at gunpoint and knife point, and that they're usually raped and sexually assaulted by people they know, and they often continue to be in contact with those people. And that is what this trial, in many respects, will be about, where we have come as a society.
Can you
Yeah.
explain again why your 2 sisters that you represent, not the Molyneux ones, but the other 2 are not criminal charges in this case?
Now, you'd have to ask that question to the district attorney's office, but I have faith that they have put together a case that they believe gives them the best chance to obtain a criminal conviction. There's a lot of strategy as a former prosecutor myself that goes into that, and I won't speculate as to why they did or didn't do that. All right, thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Doug.
Hi, I'm attorney Gloria Allred, and I represent one of the 2 victims in this case of People versus Harvey Weinstein, for whom charges have been filed. That person is Mimi. I also represent the witness on the issue of sexually predatory conduct, and that witness is Annabella Shore. There were many issues discussed today. but for me, the most interesting issues were, first of all, the request by the defense to sequester the jury. That request was made because apparently the defense was worried that other charges may be filed by one or more other jurisdictions while this case is pending and in trial. And the concern was that somehow that would affect this jury that is about to be selected in this case, and that somehow they might need to make a motion for a mistrial if that happens, and if the jurors learn of it. It appears that it may be that they were concerned about Los Angeles. I'm licensed in California and also in New York, and that there have been news reports that there has been an ongoing criminal investigation by the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office for 2 years, and that it may be that charges will be filed soon. Date unknown, and not to a certainty yet that charges will be filed. But apparently that's making the defense nervous, and so they made that request. That motion was denied. The jury will not be sequestered. Ordinarily, juries are not sequestered. There have been some notable exceptions in high-profile cases, like in the case of People versus O.J. Simpson, where I also represented the family of Nicole Brown Simpson. Jury was sequestered. Also, the well-known case of People versus Scott Peterson, where that jury was sequestered. I also represented the key prosecution witness, Amber Fry, in that case. In any event, the defense motion was denied. I also thought it was very interesting that there was mention of Black Cube in the court today by the prosecution, and that the prosecution is seeking to have the defense stipulate to a witness in reference to Black Cube. There have been many news reports about the allegation that Black Cube was hired by Mr. Weinstein's defense attorneys to investigate the certain witnesses or certain individuals who might be speaking publicly about what they allege was their truth about Mr. Weinstein. And it has come out that that is true, that there has been such an investigation. And so the prosecution indicated that if the defense does not stipulate to that, then they are going to want to call attorney David Boies to the witness stand in reference to Black Cube. So we'll have to see what happens on that. That's going to be a very interesting issue. Finally, I would say another interesting, but not the only important issue in the case, but to me interesting, was the fact that there has been a media blitz by the defense in the last 72 hours. That was brought up by the prosecutor, Joan Luzzi, and she felt that what the defense was saying was, in her words, abominable. And I would agree with that, because the defense did talk about this weekend certain witnesses that are going to be called by the prosecution, certain people who are alleged to be victims, and that they also talked, according to the prosecutor, about certain sealed discovery matters. And Donna Rotuno admitted to having been interviewed this weekend, which we all know she was. And while the court did not grant the motion to essentially have a protective order so that the defense cannot talk about this case, the court was very clear that the defense was not to talk about witnesses in the case. And I think what the defense was trying to do this weekend and prior to that was to try make an attempt to, through insinuations or direct statements, that somehow some of the witnesses could not be believed, and trying to undermine the witnesses. And why would they do that now before the trial starts? Obviously to try to have an impact on the jury pool, to then raise doubts about some of the witnesses the prosecution will call. And I think that's extremely, extremely unfair to the witnesses, and that the jury should only judge the witnesses' testimony and their credibility based on what is admitted in court, and not based on any arguments of the defense, either inside or outside of the courtroom. And so that's going to be very important. So last point that I would like to make is this has been a journey to justice. And, you know, as I've said many times, my firm has been the leading women's rights law firm in the United States for 44 years. And we are dedicated to making sure that women enjoy their rights and not be intimidated or retaliated against because they assert their rights. So I think both of my clients in this case have been very brave, very courageous, because they're willing to testify under oath, to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help them God. And they're doing so because it's in the interest of justice for them to do that. So I admire them, I honor them, and I'm very pleased to be able to represent them. And I'll be happy to take any questions.
Why is it important for the jury to hear evidence of Black Cube?
Why is it important to hear evidence of Black Cube? I think I will let the prosecution say when they are ready to indicate why they think it's important. But I do think it's important because it has been very intimidating to some people to learn that they were being investigated even prior to their saying anything. And, you know, there are reports that individuals sent by Black Cube were not forthright about who they were, and that would cause any person who may have been the subject or target of investigation to feel that, you know, their privacy is being invaded, perhaps violated, and it's very upsetting to think that they're being investigated when they have done nothing wrong to justify such an investigation.
What would be the best outcome for you?
The best outcome will be not only a fair trial for Mr. Weinstein, but a fair trial for any witness who testifies. Because often witnesses do not feel that they're being treated fairly, that the defense is being treated fairly, the accused, but not the witnesses for the prosecution. So regardless of the ultimate outcome in this case, the justice system is working. Even though there were 60 to 90 women who spoke out publicly, only 2 are alleged to be victims in this case for whom charges have been filed. And there may be others, well, there will be others who allege that they are not only witnesses but victim witnesses, even though no charges have been filed for them. So accountability is what this is all about, that Mr. Weinstein finally has to confront in court the witnesses against him and the evidence against him, in addition to the testimony of the witnesses, and that women are being very brave. And I'm just so proud of them for that.
Thank you.
So, thank you. Anything else? Okay, good. Thank you.
up, or I think they're done. All right. Okay. Can't wait.
Yeah.
Crazy, man. No problem. Hey, listen, we're going to be at the call.
Will, how are you? That's the more important question.
Sorry, huh?
Questionnaire.
I feel like getting one of those cans of